So I just started testing some cleaner here. I've got this stuff called Blazo Clean. It's made by Blazer, which is the same company that makes the coolant that I run in the Fadal. Mixed it in a little spray bottle just to test it out. I don't know what ratio I did here. I just poured some in and added some water. I'm gonna start spraying some stuff in here to see what happens. I just a little spot here, just right here, just sprayed a little mist on there and then waited a couple seconds and then wiped it. And this crud pretty much dissolves right off. If I go to a spot that I haven't cleaned yet, you know, this stuff is stuck on here pretty good. And then a couple little sprays. And then wait, you can see it already kind of takes off the coolant residue. And then a couple little wipes and it kind of just smears away. So this is going pretty well, I think. So I think what I'm going to do is just kind of mist this machine down a couple times and maybe go at it with some brushes or whatever. And hopefully get a bunch of this crud off before I start working on it. Alright, we're on day 2 of the cleanup. I've been in here with a pick and all kinds of stuff. Pressure washer, detergent, pretty much everything I can think of, trying to get some of this stuff off. I think it's just going to come down to taking off as many panels and white covers and everything as possible. So every time I pull something off, I discover more crustiness, more chips in places where they shouldn't be. And, you know, blocking up passages for coolant to get out and all this other stuff. So I think it's just going to come down to just stripping this machine and, you know, replacing seals and whatnot, so that it doesn't keep looking nasty. That's with it mostly clean. Believe it or not, like I've been scraping crud and goo and whatnot for the past few hours now, just to get it at this point. I pressure washed this side. This is actually looking really good in here. So there's still a pool of stuff at the bottom of this tank, but at least I can see the fittings. The hoses are pretty clear, so I can figure out what's leaking in here. And I mean, there's still some, you know, schmoo up in there that I got to get taken care of. And then, of course, everywhere I can't reach with the pressure washer has got a nice coating of stuff. But for the most part, the pressure washer is the thing to do. I know there's probably a lot of people that are saying, you know, what's going to happen with the electronics and everything that you're pressure washing. And to be honest, like for stuff like this, I don't think the pressure washer is going to be able to get any water in that connector. Those are like mil-spec connectors. And then for stuff like, you know, this fan or whatever, like this fan's going to have to be replaced anyway, so I don't really care. And there's not really anything else that I have to worry about. Maybe like the hydraulic solenoids or the air solenoid up there, but I mean, I've got stuff to replace all that. And then the encoder also has a big mil-spec connector on it, so I'm assuming it's pretty well shielded. And I wasn't really blasting it into the spindle, so I don't think I displaced the grease in that. So yeah, I think for the most part doing the pressure washer is the thing. So just coming around to this side, so you can see in here, getting a little cleaner. I can actually see the writing on the motors now. This was so covered up with crap that, you know, you couldn't even really see what was going on. Still a bunch in there I've got to get to, and I'm going to pull these covers off as well over here, or at least get them free so I can get kind of behind them. One thing that I've noticed is all the way cover seals are just tore up to the point where they don't really work anymore. And I think that's why there's so much crud everywhere. So I'll get up real close to that. These things are trash. So obviously if chips can get in there and you know, they can't drain out of places like this, that fills up with coolant and oil and whatever, and that overflows to other areas where it shouldn't be. You know, just a escalating problem. So I've got a few hydraulic hoses to replace here for the tailstock, and you know, whatever else. All these gaskets that go along here need to be replaced to keep the coolant and everything in. You know, just, it's mostly rubber. That's the problem here. The linear bearings actually look pretty good. I thought that these seals were bad, but when I pressure washed it and took a close look at one of them, it was actually in pretty good shape. So hopefully the trucks are still good. The ball screws turn smoothly by hand, which I had to turn to get the turret in this position. So I think for the most part the mechanical aspect of this machine is good. It's really just a cleanup operation at this point, and then the conversion later. So this is the kind of stuff I've been finding on this machine. So I just took this way cover off, and all over this machine there's drains for coolant to escape. So they're expecting some coolant to get past the seals, but in pretty much every one of these drains, they're so clogged up with crap that there's no way for them to drain anymore. And so the coolant that should be kind of escaping through here, this nastiness, gets backed up, goes here probably, or actually probably over here, and then drops down into where the linear rails are and the ball screw. So this whole area I already cleaned out before, but it was totally clogged up with chips, of course, like everything else in this machine. Just, you know, just this goo and chips. And the reason is all these drains are clogged up. Nobody ever thought to fix this machine up or replace seals or anything like that. So when a seal goes bad and starts letting chips through, and chips clog up areas, and oil clogs up areas, and dried coolant clogs up areas, then chips go where they're not supposed to, and then the machine fills up with crud in all kinds of places where it shouldn't, and then I guess eventually wears itself out. This one's maybe at that point. I don't know how bad this ball screw is. I don't know how bad these rails are. I don't know how bad the trucks are, but I'm assuming once I get this machine running again, we'll figure out what kind of tolerances it's able to deliver. But I'm hoping that, you know, there's no permanent damage here. I was cleaning out the oil pump, which was totally clogged, or the lube pump, I guess, totally clogged with goo. Put some new Vectra in it and started pumping away just to see, you know, if everything was working right, and it wasn't. Wasn't getting oil flow anywhere. So I just took off this manifold. Yeah, real gooey in there. Pretty much clogged all the way up. All the ports look like that on the opening, when they should have, you know, like a clear shot for the oil to go through. I may buy new ones. I may try to ultrasonically clean these. I know I've got to ultrasonically clean this, but I've got some more of these. I've got different styles. I've got like this style, positive displacement. That's probably not going to work here, but I got like a whole mess of these like oil fittings. Yeah, just various kinds. So I might have the right ones already. But yeah, that's where I'm at right now. Just going through it. Did some more cleaning. It's my little boy whining that the pacifier fell out of his mouth, so I got to go take care of that. So did a little ultrasonic cleaning and little bath in acetone, and the little screen filters look a lot cleaner now. Also, you can see through this now, so that's good. So, yeah, I think that's probably clean enough. I'm going to shoot some compressed air through each one of these and make sure they still flow. They're not like clogged internally, but yeah, that's how you clean them up. I don't think I'll have to buy new ones. So I don't know what idiot thought that it was a good idea to put that manifold, that lube manifold, way back in there. All these short hoses. I don't know what the hell they were thinking. There's like the tightest little hole that you can't fit any wrenches in. Trying to like work that thing out so I can change those orifices out. Meanwhile, they could have put it anywhere back here on the back of this machine and not had an issue. But, you know, what are you gonna do? Okay, so I got all the oilers cleaned out, looked at. They all flow now. I hit them with compressed air and air comes out the other end. So got to looking at my parts manuals over here, and this is the one for the turret, and this is the one for the Z. And basically, for the turret, it says all of these should be number 24s or size 0s. And then for the Z, the 4 for the trucks should be size 0, and then the ball screw and the ball nut, so it drips oil onto the ball screw, and the ball nut gets a feed as well. Those are size 1s. However, or size 25, number 1, I don't remember exactly the nomenclature. The 1 flows a little more. I have an extra 1 here. These are all supposed to be 0s, but I've got a 1. So I'm going to put the 1 on the ball screw, or actually on the ball nut, and just run it like that, because either somebody has gone through here and put these in wrong, or, you know, lost one and put another one in willy-nilly. Or maybe the manual is wrong, but I'm just going to go ahead and plumb this to the ball screw. And then the rest of these will just be however they were, number 0s. So, yeah, I'm also going to relocate this. This is like in the turret. Let me get a video of that. So this guy was kind of jammed up in there. Well, I moved in on this bracket a little bit, but it was basically sitting in there like that, with the ports facing forward on the machine. And if you can see in there, there's almost no room whatsoever. It's kind of dark, but all the hoses were all kind of wrapped up on each other and tied in knots and shit, and basically it took me about an hour to get it out of there, having to unscrew all the nuts and try to get it out. So yeah, so it's not going back in there. I'm gonna put it somewhere back here. I don't know, maybe something like that. And then run the hoses inside and just have longer ones, so I'll have to make new hoses. But if I ever have to undo a clogged injector or something like that, or metering valve, I think is what they're called, I don't want to have to dig in there again. So the less clutter in there, the better. The next job is to look at these way wipers. So this is just the small one pulled off of the Z cover. And as you can see, it's in not great shape. The wiper, basically this whole area right here was packed with chips, probably 1/8 of an inch thick. So the way wipers are basically just wiping chips and oil back and forth, which is less than ideal. It also let a lot of crud get behind the machine where it shouldn't go. So as you can see, this thing is pretty deformed. And there's supposed to be like on the profile, there's supposed to be like a little, like a lip edge, like a fairly sharp edge to kind of like squeegee the oil and crap out of the way. And this doesn't have that. And when you put it on the machine, the wiper doesn't actually make contact to the telescoping panel underneath it. So it doesn't wipe anything. So I need to replace these. I don't think there's any way to refurbish these things. It's screwed on. these little screws that are tapped into this brass. I'm guessing this is like a wear bar. So whatever I get has to either have that same brass strip, which I found some. It's not quite the exact same size and shape, but it's very close. So I'll have to drill and tap those holes and cut the brass to the right length and everything else. It's either that or I could get a different style and spot weld. They come with like little steel bars in them instead of brass, and you basically just spot weld it to the way cover. So I may do that too. I'm not really sure. I'd like to try to stick to these if possible. It depends on the price, I guess. So I guess I'll try to order those. All right, so didn't take a whole lot of video since my last one. Done a lot of work. So it's still in the cleaning phases. I keep finding more things that are messed up with this machine. For one, I couldn't get the chuck off. There is a tool that you need to take it off. Looks like this. And what happens is these dogs on the end of this thing engage on a nut in there, and the nut was so rusted on that I guess when they tried to take the chuck off last time, it screwed up the dogs that the nut has internally, and really mangled them good. So I had to find a way to take this off. Goes about like that. With the chuck on, you can't really get in there to do anything. So yeah, basically what is supposed to happen is this tool goes in there and lets you rotate it. And you can see it kind of works, but as soon as you try to put any kind of torque in it, it just swages over that metal in there where it's supposed to engage. So had to do a little heating and beating and pry barring, and I actually broke one of my pry bars trying to get this stupid chuck off. A lot of swearing. Even had Erica out here trying to help me. She was, putting her body weight on the pry bar, and I was hitting it with a hammer, and eventually it did break free, and I was able to get the chuck off. It's in pretty bad shape. So this is the chuck that I got with the machine. I guess they bought a replacement, but weren't able to put it in because they probably had a difficult time getting it off. So that's what it's supposed to look like in there. And then this is what came out. And as you can see, probably never cleaned out. It was pretty packed with brass chips and grease, just kind of dried up grease. So just like everything else in this machine, rough shape, not taken care of, not fixed properly. I took the tool eye off as well. This thing was evidently crashed at some point and broke this off, and they did a pretty horrendous job welding it back on. So I'm not sure if I'm gonna grind all that off and re-weld it. Like that one, pretty bad stuff. I'm not sure if I'm gonna grind it off and re-weld it or if I'm going to buy a new one. There's some on eBay, they're like 200 and something bucks for a different machine, but it looks identical. So I might do that. And then I'll have a spare tool eye, I guess, and all the parts. The other thing is the piece that rotates that arm up and down. I think it's supposed to have a spring in it that keeps it up when the motor's off. But right now that spring is either weak or broken or something, and you can just kind of move the arm and it just stays where you left it. So I think that something in there is broken, and there's a couple angular contact bearings that are also not holding everything tight. So I may just have to replace the thing anyway. So the next thing I'm going to take off Well, as you can see, I've got a lot more space now in here to work. It's because I took the enclosure off. Hi! It's my son, and he's having a good time in the shop with Dad right now. It looks like his outfit is dirty. I just changed him. That's just the color of that shirt. Looks like he's been rolling around in mud or something in the camera, but yeah, he's having fun. So yeah, I took the enclosure off. I'm probably going to have this thing sandblasted and then either powder coated or repainted with something nice. I'm definitely going to have to go through here and fix a bunch of stuff beforehand. You know, this is after cleaning the crap out of it, so there's still like pockets of dried up coolant and stuff, and you know, the paint's just kind of coming off. But I think with a little sandblasting, a little elbow grease, some new windows, it'd be nice. I think it'll be nice. Yeah, I got it all off with the engine hoist. That was interesting. It was very awkward, but I'm glad I did it because now I can just, you know, reach in here and fix whatever I need to fix. When I take this guy off, I'll be able to take all this stuff off and get to the servo down there, get to the hydraulic lines, and you know, get everything pulled out that's messed up. And some of these other hydraulic hoses are cracked, so I'm not sure if I'm going to replace all of them, but I might have to. So yeah, that's where I'm at. Here's a better shot of the hydraulic actuator and the draw tube. So this is the nut that sits on top, or that sits in the spindle. Sorry, in the chuck. Can't think right now. So luckily I was able to clean up the threads pretty good, and this thing goes on by hand now. So it's not in too bad shape. It's supposed to be able to turn fairly easily. That's why I think it has these detents here. And in the chuck, there's a little spring and a ball bearing that I'm assuming is supposed to lock into these detents to keep it from turning. And you can use this to kind of adjust the travel of the chuck in relation to how much movement there is in the piston here. So, so right now she's, I think she's ready to go back in. The actuator itself, I don't think is leaking. There's no way of knowing until I get some hydraulic power in it. Basically, the way that these things work is there's, you know, O-rings and seals in here where the piston moves up and down in this cylinder. But there's not a seal where the shaft is actually spinning. It's just a fairly tight tolerance, and whatever fluid goes through here that's, you know, either forcing the chuck to release or to engage, whatever fluid slips past that goes out this case drain here and back into the hydraulic tank. So it's always kind of supposed to be leaking fluid out. So as long as you get the clamping force you need and the you know, your hydraulic pump can keep up and fluid is going back into the tank, it should be okay. So as long as you're not having fluid like come out of this thing in any other place it's not supposed to. So I think the O-rings are okay. I'm just gonna roll with it. If not, when I get this thing put back together, I'm gonna leave it with the cover off initially and run it and, you know, see if everything works. And once I verify that, I'm gonna, you know, put it back together and make the cabinet all nice. So for the time being, anything that is broken that I don't know about yet will be able to be fixed fairly easily with the covers off. So that's the plan of attack here. So here's some more fun developments. This is the lathe the chuck backplate. There's a taper here, and it indexes on the nose of the spindle, and this is the face that actually touches the nose, and this is the side that the chuck touches. I just stoned this thing, and wow, I don't know what was happening here, but somebody was beating the crap out of this thing. There are all kinds of dings in it. There were some actually on this side where they were hitting it with something, and actually raised burrs on the inside, which I had to file out. So like right there, raised the burr that I had to file out. Not very pretty. I may end up replacing this at some point, but for the time being it'll have to work until I can verify that the machine is gonna work. But yeah, this is supposed to be like a fairly precise piece. And somebody has gone at it with all kinds of tools. Fun stuff. So the other thing I got around to is the seals on these rails, the wipers. We're kind of delaminating. There's like a rubber wiper, and then it's like bonded to a little piece of sheet metal, which is bolted to the end of the end cap of these things. Well, it was delaminating, and I was worried they were just going to fall off and just introduce a bunch of grit. So I 3D printed some little things to hold these on. These were just like real quickly done. So they kind of like hold the rubber from the other side so that it's like mechanically connected. So I got those on the trucks. And over here too, I may have to redesign it for the inside if those things are also delaminating, so like the other side of the truck's in there. Yeah, that's going to be a pain to get to, so I may have to make a two-piece one, or just hopefully just the outsides need them. So yeah, that's I think the last thing I'm going to put in this video. Then we'll start another video up here when I get some more stuff done. Hopefully I'll try recording while I'm doing the things I'm doing. I know it's kind of boring to kind of just see a summary of what's happening, but it's really hard to record it yourself and do work at the same time. I'm all over the place in the shop, so yeah, maybe I'll try it out and see what happens.